guys, welcome back. My name is Megan and this is Rebel Ramblings. So I'm going to be starting a series with this video where basically I take fictional characters from various stories and media that I like and I discuss and analyze what I think their Myers-Briggs type is. So if you are interested to hear that and want to hear more, maybe subscribe to my channel, like this video, and let's get started. So I'm kind of going to make a little bit of a disclaimer before this video. Myers-Briggs typing for fictional characters can never be 100% correct, accurate, that is the one, and the reason for this is that as well-rounded as a character is, they are all still technically two-dimensional characters, so we can't always guess how they're going to react in every single situation because we're not actually able to see them in that situation, and of course nobody's completely able to be inside their mind. Keep in mind that some element of it is always going to be subjective up to my opinions. Therefore, you are more than likely and more than welcome to disagree with what I decide for these characters. So if you disagree with the typing that I give, or you have a theory about what it might be, or you want to point out anything like that, please do comment down below. I would love to hear what you all think. So if you don't know or don't really know what Myers-Briggs is, or you kind of know but you don't have a real understanding of it, I did make a video describing what that is, which I will link so you can watch that video. But just as a brief overview, Myers-Briggs is a psychology-based personality typing system where basically it takes everybody in the world and it groups them into one of 16 personality types, and those personality types are each combined of 4 letters, and that is determined based on how you perceive and interact with the world. So for today's video, I am going to be discussing and typing Princess Leia, of course, from Star Wars. So Princess Leia, I think she's a really cool and interesting character. She subjects a lot of the standard character archetypes for her role, especially considering how much more intense they were in the 70s when the movie first came out, and also in a genre where a lot of these roles tend to be more focused on. So basically, she is the lead female. She's quite literally the princess. She's even literally the damsel in distress the first time you meet her, but she doesn't fall into that role. She ends up being very much the leader, very tough, very strong. She speaks her mind, very tenacious, very brave. So it's cool to see that. So the first letter is the I versus the E, introvert versus extrovert. I think it's pretty obvious that she's an extrovert. I think you very rarely see her in a situation where she's needing time alone to recharge. She might need time alone to think things over, especially if it's something really tough and intense or something very upsetting, but she doesn't need time alone to recharge her batteries. She recharges her batteries by being around people and the energy of the room, of all of the other people that she's working with. The second letter is the N versus the S. So this is the intuitive versus the sensing. I would say that she's an N, she's intuitive. A lot of that I do think comes from the fact that even though she's not trained as a Jedi until she's already an adult, and she's not even necessarily aware of the existence of the Force and Jedi for a large portion of her life, that she is still very, very Force sensitive. I mean, of course, she's literally the daughter of Anakin Skywalker, the most Force sensitive person ever. So she does use the Force, even if she doesn't know that that's what she's doing. Now, this isn't to say blanket statement that all Jedi are N's. I would have to think about that a lot more before I made a blanket statement like that, because I haven't typed every single Jedi in the entirety of Star Wars, but I wouldn't be surprised if a large portion of them are. However, I think it's more than just her being Force sensitive that makes her an N. I think that the fact that she was Force sensitive and therefore was often able to pick up on things and very right led her to trust her instincts, even instincts that weren't based on the Force, like being able to read body language and stuff like that. She also was trained as a politician from a very young age, so a lot of those things, very intuitive, so I'm pretty certain about that N. The third letter is the F versus the T. So this is the feeling versus thinking. And even though I was, naming a lot of things that had to do with feeling when related to the N for the intuition, I actually would say that Leia is a T, not an F. So I think that even though she does have a lot of heart, a lot of feeling, a lot of intuition, she most often goes based on her thoughts, her mind, her logic. She's very logical. So she is able to think about the outcomes of a situation without, not necessarily not taking into account the emotional cost, but she's able to deal with that thought. And this is a very important skill as both a politician and as a soldier. She's able to make the tough calls. She is able to see things from a logical perspective. She is able to see all the details and stuff like that. So I would say she's definitely a T, and that is definitely something that has done her well in her life and the roles that she's had to play. The fourth and final letter is the J versus the P. So judging versus perceiving. I think that she's a J, so judging. I would say that she's a J because she's very structured, she's very responsible, she's very organized, she's very much in control. There are elements of P in the sense that, like, she's willing to think of an idea on the fly, a plan, like when you need to think of a plan on the fly. She is able to do that, so I think that her J versus P might be the weakest obvious decision, at least in my mind. But she likes structure, she likes to be in charge, she likes things to follow the plan, even if she is aware that sometimes you can't. And she likes to get things done. She likes to finish the project. She isn't necessarily planning 5,000 things. She's like, no, we're going to plan this and we're going to get this done. So, combining those four letters together, I would type Princess Leia as an ENTJ. So I find this really cool and fascinating, and my reasoning for that is, so basically, all of the Myers-Briggs types have kind of like a stereotype about them, and I think some of them have a stronger stereotype than others, and I would say that ENTJ, as well as INTJ, which is very similar but introvert instead of extrovert, have some of the strongest stereotypes about them, and those are not necessarily always positive stereotypes. So very often in stories, the ENTJs or the INTJs are the villains because they are the masterminds, they are the logicians, they're the ones who are more concerned with the numbers and the authority and getting the job done than necessarily the people and the price involved. So they tend to be very much about that final goal and less worried about the costs. Of course, again, these are all stereotypes. These aren't necessarily true. They also tend to like power. They like to be in charge. They like authority, which can cause them to have a lot of issues with each other and maybe with other types who also like to be in charge. So technically, in statistics that I have read, the majority of sociopaths are either INTJs or ENTJs. This is of course not saying that the majority of INTJs and ENTJs are sociopaths. And I wouldn't even necessarily believe that that statistic was true, although that is an opinion that a lot of people have. However, real world, a lot of those stereotypes fall apart very quickly because we're all real people. In stories, those stereotypes are more likely to be followed because people are writing based on perceptions of who people are and how they would behave because they're not real people. So in fiction and literature and stuff, this stereotype does tend to be more true. A lot of times they are the masterminds, they are the villains, or they're like the person that's on your side, but like you don't really like them, but you're just glad they're on your side because they're willing to do what it takes. However, something I think is really cool about Princess Leia in Star Wars is that she is this ENTJ mastermind type, but she is not cold. She's not the sociopath. She's certainly not a sociopath. She's not that kind of person that you would think that an ENTJ would be. She is brass. She's to the point. She's willing to do what it takes to get the job done, but she isn't not caring. She really does care about the lives. And as you can see, especially in The Last Jedi, she's very upset that Poe is willing to make a call that costs a lot of lives. So there definitely are times when she is able to weigh life versus end goal. But there are also times, especially I think when it's her sacrificing herself, you know, because you're more willing to sacrifice yourself than strangers, or, well, not strangers, but than random people that trust you. She is willing to make that call. I think that it's really cool that Leia is an ENTJ while still being a very good and very beloved and very loving person. And I think it's a really useful skill. I mean, looking at the role that she has had in her entire life, from being a senator who is involved in the original structure of the Rebel Alliance, because her adoptive father, Bail Organa, started the Rebel Alliance, in case you guys don't know that. Helping to restart the Jedi Order with her brother, and literally starting a government. She was a huge part of starting the New Republic, which was the government that took over after the fall of the Empire. So her skills definitely came in handy. I think a lot of that stuff wouldn't have necessarily gotten done without her. I think that, you know, Luke is definitely like the heart of that pair, but there's a lot that would not have gotten done if he didn't have somebody who was willing to make those tough calls and willing to be like, no, listen, we have to listen to our logic here. So definitely a good pair together. Definitely really awesome that she has those skills. I mean, somebody's gotta save our skin, right? And I think it's really cool that she subverts yet another stereotype with her character, which is being a woman who is an ENTJ, because I guess I should mention that also. The majority of ENTJs and INTJs are men, especially again in fiction, because, you know, they're the brainy, logical math types. But she's a woman who is an ENTJ. She's a good guy who's an ENTJ. And she's a kind, sensitive person who is an ENTJ. So that is my analysis of my typing of Princess Leia. If you agree, if you disagree, if you have an opinion on something I said, please comment down below. I would love to hear all of you guys' opinion on this. If you liked this video and you want to hear more, subscribe to my channel, like this video. If there are characters that you would like to hear me talk about, hear my typing opinion on them, please comment those characters down below and I will get to those as well. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!